In this chapter, we're going to explore some additional object effects that you can apply to your objects here in CorelDRAW X4, artistic text, clip art, shapes that you've drawn, you name it. We're going to start in this lesson by exploring perspective, then we'll move on to the lens effect and adding bevels in the upcoming lessons. So you can see I've opened up a file that we're going to use in this chapter. It's called moreeffects1.cdr. If you've got the exercise files, you'll find this one in the Lesson 12 folder. And you can see I'm on page 1, the very first page, dealing with perspective. And in fact, the word perspective has some perspective. It seems to be vanishing into the distance, and that's what perspective is. Look at my clip art down below of the building. It too has some perspective. So it's almost a three-dimensional effect, and you can see that you've got a couple of points going in two directions in this case, out to the left as well as out to the right, and each of those would have a vanishing point. So we're going to look at using one or two vanishing points while working with perspective. So we'll start with our text, Green Onion Bistro. I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to click my zoom tool just to zoom into that text a little bit closer. All right, back to my pick tool, and it is selected. I can add perspective by going up to the Effects menu and down to Add Perspective. Now, as soon as I do, you can see that I've got this grid on top of my text, and in the corners I've got handles. You may have also noticed that we've suddenly switched to the Shape tool, and this allows us to create our perspective. And although you might not see it because we're zoomed in, our selected object, in this case artistic text, does have vanishing points. So if I wanted to create the effect that it was going off into the distance here on the left, I can just simply click and drag this handle down. And you notice I can go left, right, up, and down. If you want to constrain it, hold down your Control key, and you want to just go straight down. The further down I go, the further into the distance it seems to be disappearing. And all of a sudden you see this little X showing up on my screen. That is our vanishing point. When I let go, you can see how it appears to vanish out into the distance here on the left-hand side. Now with my vanishing point, I can actually click and drag that closer to increase the distance, or pull it out to the left to decrease the distance, thus adjusting my vanishing point. Now, of course, I could do that over here as well. I've got some handles, and if I wanted to, click and drag down. I'm going to hold down Control, though, so I don't go too crooked. And you can see that's affecting my vanishing point over there on the left as well. So it's just a little bit more exaggerated. It appears to be vanishing. If we were to follow along this top line and this bottom line, eventually we would reach this X right here on our page. All right, so I'm going to press Shift F4 to zoom out so I can see my text and click on the Pick tool, deselect to see the end result. So that's vanishing. How about our object here, the green onion? I'm going to click on that and go up to Effects, down to Add Perspective, and you can see I've got that same grid showing up here. So let's zoom into that. I'm going to click my zoom tool, zoom into my onion, and I'm going to go back to my perspective. Now if I go back to my shape tool, you can see that it does take me back to the grid where I can add my perspective. So if I click and drag this down, this one up, eventually I see the vanishing point, and you can see it's actually vanishing into the distance so I can't even see it. I'm going to adjust it just like that, and if I wanted to, I could also adjust this to create a tilting effect. You can see it's like kind of lying on its side, and look at that as I come down, there's another vanishing point right there. So I can increase that or decrease it by clicking and dragging. That's my second vanishing point. Come back to this one and I'll see the other one, the original vanishing point. So I'm actually changing perspective in a couple of directions. Now if it's not working out at any time, we can go back to our effects menu, come down to clear perspective down here. It's available because we're working with perspective, and that will clear the effect and allow us to start over from scratch. So I'm going to press Shift F4. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to click on my Pick tool and click on Bistro here. I'm going to go up to Effects and clear that perspective as well, because I've got an idea here. Because we've got a building, and maybe this is the Green Onion Bistro headquarters, it might be nice to create what looks like a sign on top of the building, or maybe on the top floor. But because the building has some perspective, I'm going to try and match the perspective here with my text and my onion. So all I have to do now is select both of them. I'm going to marquee select around both my artistic text and the onion. I'm going to size it down a little bit. And to treat it like one object, I think what I should do is probably group it. I'm going to click the grouping button. Control G on the keyboard will also work, like so. And now I'm going to go up to Effects and down to Add Perspective. Now if I wanted to, I could just hold down my Control key and click and drag. There we go. And there's my vanishing point. Now it might be easier if I just go to my pick tool here and drag it on top of the building so I can try to match the perspective. As you can see, there's a bit of a rotation there as well. So let's go back to Effects. And we can always adjust by going back to Add Perspective. And let's drag this down here. I'm going to hold down Control just to keep it steady. And I'm going to try and match that line at the bottom of my building. I'm going to do the same up here, holding down Control, click and drag. Now that means I have to come over here, click and drag this one up to match the top line of my building. I'm going to bring this up so it's not overlapping. Let's get it inside. Probably we should have zoomed in here to really be able to focus in. There we go. We want those lines to be parallel. I'm going to click my zoom tool to zoom into this area a little bit closer. You can see the effect I'm getting. Back to my shape tool. And now if I wanted to, I can make some adjustments here. That should be straight up and down. Well, I kind of like that effect right there, just as it is. Shift F4 zooms us right back out so we can see the end result. I'll click on my pick tool and deselect. And there's my Green Onion Bistro headquarters with the sign at the top of the building and all. So now you should have a good handle on working perspective in your drawings here in CorelDRAW X4. The next effect we're going to look at is the lens effect. Stay tuned for that in the next lesson.